To steal a line from legendary broadcaster Brent Musburger, you are looking live at the Flying Turtle Lounge. This is week 2 of On Top the Cage. Back this week is my friend Dan. I am your host, Ken. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Good. Nice,
All right.
nice weather we had today. Excellent.
We
Fall
had,
is here.
it is a little bit, a little brisk in the air. We had an amazing week last week picking the games against the spread. You went 9-5-2, 9 wins, 5 losses, 2 pushes. The pushes were the Cincinnati Chargers game, and then the last Monday night game, which was the Titans at the Broncos. I bested you by 1 game, went 10-4-2. Those are incredible numbers. I checked, we certainly outpaced the experts on the national websites, such as ESPN, CBS Sports. So you are in the right place. Our viewers that are back this week, our listeners that are back this week, hopefully you are with us with a few more dollars in your account because the advice went well. Hopefully we can do it again this week. Before we get started, a little housekeeping. We do appreciate, once again, all of our listeners and viewers. We got quite a few questions. One of the questions that came up was, why is there an enormous Dolphins flag right behind me if I'm a diehard Chicago Bears fan? The reasoning behind that is my amazing wife is originally from South Florida. She is a Dolphins fan. She has 4 brothers, Dolphins fans. Her father, probably the biggest Dolphins fan. So they do their thing on Sunday where you have this kind of group chat, right? Largely it's complaining about how bad their team stinks.
Yeah.
So they also make this weird dolphin noise. It's like E when they score. We don't hear that too often as well, though. So I had to take a couple pot shots at my in-laws. You guys know I love you. But that is the reason why the Dolphins flag is prominently displayed behind me. The other question I got asked the most is, what's up with On Top the Cage? Where'd that name come from? It largely is derived from a song from one of my favorite bands called OAR. The song is actually called On Top the Cage. Cage is also slang for a casino's cashier. So that's the betting connotation with it. All right, that's kind of the housekeeping that we had for the week. We're obviously going to pick the games this week, but before we do it, I want to talk about best, worst picks from last week. Dan, you got a best pick that you made last week?
Well, I think my pick, Seattle going into Atlanta. You know, it used to be Atlanta was unstoppable at home, and Seattle just rolled when they went there. Worst of the week had to be my Browns. I mean, that was embarrassing. The Ravens are a good football team, but good grief, we looked awful.
Yeah,
awful. I mean, you can't tell we changed a thing from last year.
That was pretty abysmal. I agree with your best pick. You had a lot of conviction on the Seahawks going across the country and smoking them. I think you said you can turn this game off by halftime or something to that effect, and you were pretty close. As far as me, best pick, I'm going to go with when I picked the New Orleans Saints -3.5 against the Bucks. I had told our viewers, listeners, that I wanted to see, New England South first. I wanted to see what it was going to look like with the new parts, with Brady and Gronkowski and all these guys. And I tell you what, they kind of fell on their faces. Brady didn't look like himself. So I think that was my best pick. I think my worst pick was probably the Philadelphia Eagles -6 at Washington. And the reason why I say that is because I told our viewers, our listeners, that as the Eagles go, or as Carson Wentz goes, the Eagles go, and they got out to a great start. They have 17-0. They gave up the last 27 points of the game, and largely it was due to Carson Wentz. He threw the ball to the other team. He put the ball on the ground. So I'm going with that as my worst pick. So, all right, it's basically time to go ahead and pick Week 2 slate. I want to let you know, of course, that we will be, as promised last week, doing the special beer tasting that you won't want to miss after the picks. You won't want to miss it. All right. First game up on the slate, Thursday Night Football.
My boys.
Yes. The battle for Ohio. The Cincinnati Bengals go about 4 hours north up to play your Cleveland Browns. The Browns are -6. The over is 43.5. What do you say?
I'm taking the Browns all the way. They got embarrassed, so they got something to prove.
Oof.
And we'll see what happens because they're going to be looking for a new quarterback.
I am not.
We're a receiver leaving town.
You like them to bounce back. We'll see. I mean, we have small sample size with this stuff. I don't. I'm going to take the points. I think this is a field goal game either way. In fact, I think Cincinnati could possibly win the game.
Both our kickers stink.
I don't even want to hear the name of the kicker that you signed, Cody Parkey, who is an ex-Bear. I think it's the second stint in Cleveland, no less.
Bengals just signed the guy we cut because their guy got a calf injury. Both calves, whatever.
The Bengals are right there at the end of their game. They had a chance to win the game. There was an OPI, offensive pass interference on A.J. Green that would have won the game for them. They had a chip shot field goal. It was awful. Randy Bullock missed it wide to the right by a good 5 to 7 yards. Here's a stat for you. And the reason why I'm not going to take the Browns and I'm going to take the points of the Bengals, the Browns in their home openers, the last 16 years are 0-15-1. That is a staggering number.
That's the first game of the year, not the second game.
Home opener. It's home opener.
That's not what
All
you're
right.
talking about.
All right, Dan's on the Browns. I'm on the Bengals. All right, the next game up. I guess we're going to get both of our teams out of the way.
Yeah.
The New York Giants travel to play my Chicago Bears. The Bears are -5.5. The over/under is 42.5. The Bears are very fortunate to escape Detroit with a win. They didn't play very well offensively for the first 3 quarters. Mitch Trubisky caught fire in the last quarter through 3 touchdown passes. The defense didn't look exactly great. With 6 seconds left in the game, Detroit had a wide open, their rookie running back, DeAndre Swift, in the end zone. He dropped the ball. So the Bears are fortunately 1-0. I do like them to bounce back this week. The number's 5.5. They do play the Giants. The Giants had a really difficult time on Monday night handling the Steelers. I'm gonna lay the points, lay the 5.5. I'm gonna take the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, Giants had a tough game against the Steelers. They got to figure out a way to get Saquon Barkley more involved in the games. But I'm picking your Bears as well in this one. Young team, young quarterback, and I'm going with the Bears.
Fair enough. Next game up, the Atlanta Falcons travel to Dallas Cowboys. The line is Cowboys -4.5, over under 52.5. Vegas expecting a lot of points in this game. Cowboys played Sunday Night Football. We both chose the Rams in that game. We were right. They have a ton of firepower in the Dallas offense. They didn't exactly look great, but the Falcon defense, very suspect. Obviously, I think the Seahawks laid 38 on them.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you like in this game?
I'm going Cowboys on this one. They're at home, Jerry's place, -4.5. Come on, you got Ezekiel Elliott's going to run all over them. They got some weapons on offense with the receivers. I'm taking the Cowboys in this one.
Did you see that crazy belly tattoo that Zeke has?
Yeah,
this year?
yeah.
Holy cow! Holy cow! I'm with you. I'm with you.
One of those.
I like the firepower. I saw CeeDee Lamb, the rookie receiver, get involved a little bit. I mean, they have a ton of firepower on offense. I'm going to lay the 4.5 as well. I like the Cowboys to cover that number. Next game up, NFC North game that's important to my Chicago Bear team. The Detroit Lions go to play the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are -6. The over/under is 49. Last week, Packers went into Minnesota. They handled them pretty well. Aaron Rodgers, once again, hasn't seemed to miss a beat.
No.
Detroit, we talked about Detroit already briefly. They put up a few points on the Bears. That line is 6. What do you think, Dan?
I can't believe it's 6. Aaron Rodgers just looked phenomenal to me. He just makes everybody play better. I'm taking the Packers in this one at home.
Go ahead.
Are they?
I know. It's like a teaser line, and I have a really hard time. I'm going to go the other way with this because I watched the entire Lions-Bears game, obviously. The Lions ran the ball on the Bears. The Bears are really missing their defensive tackle, Eddie Goldman, who opted out. But they ran the ball on the Bear defense. Stafford looked pretty good. I think they're going to get their star receiver, Galladay, back this week. I think they're going to keep this game in the 6 range. I'm nervous about the pick. I'm on the Lions, taking the points 6. All right, next game up, the Minnesota Vikings go to Indianapolis. They're going to play the Colts. Colts are -3. The over/under is 48. We talked about the Vikings already, how they gave up a ton of points to Aaron Rodgers and crew. They run the ball with Dalvin Cook. Indianapolis was a big favorite last week in Jacksonville. They had a lead for quite a while. I didn't see a lot of the game. Gardner Minshew threw a touchdown at the end. Rivers, who has a history of throwing bad interceptions late, did it again. Colts are -3. I did see your guy Paris Hilton get involved. Paris Hilton, Paris Campbell get involved.
Paris
Pa-
Hilton, yeah.
Paris Campbell's a
She's
much
not
better.
guy.
Paris Campbell, a much better football
Yeah.
player than Paris Hilton. I tell you what, I like Indianapolis to bounce back in this game. I'm going to lay the 3 points. I'm going to take the Colts.
I'm going with the Colts as well. I think they'll fix some things that were wrong there. The Vikings, new offensive coordinator there, so they changed somewhat. Should have been relatively the same, but it doesn't seem like things are clicking there for them at all. And they got to travel. Two dome teams, but I think Indy at home is going to go beat them bigger than 3.
I agree too. I mean, I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I mean, the Vikings gave 43 to Aaron Rodgers. They may do the same to Phillip Rivers and his new crew. Next game up, the Buffalo Bills travel to the Miami Dolphins, play the Dolphins. You know, my wife and my in-laws, team. Bills are -6. I had told you last week I like the Bills a lot this year. I think they're going to win the AFC East. They are -6 down in Miami. I don't like taking road dogs a lot, laying that much wood, that many points. It's hot down in Miami. I think that accounts for something. The Dolphins have a pretty good defense. They lost 21-11 to New England, and we'll talk a little bit about that team later on in the cast. I'm gonna go ahead and take the points with the Dolphins. I'm gonna take the 6 points and go with the Dolphins. What do you think?
I agree with you. Miami, they're on the edge there, and I'm a believer in Fitzmagic in the month of September. So I think the Bills go down there and come home with a loss.
Next game up, the San Francisco 49ers travel all the way across the country to the New York Jets. Play the Jets. The 49ers are -7. The Jets, I think, are a bad football team. I don't think that Adam Gase is going to survive the season.
No. Greg Williams will be the coach by the 4th game.
Oh, you like that guy? Not a fan of that guy either, but I really.
What else are they going to do?
They didn't do a whole lot right. They didn't look prepared. The 49ers are coming off a loss as well. They lost late to Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray, Kyle Shanahan. They got it going at the end. 49ers are laying 7. Well, I said earlier I don't like them laying all those points on the road, but I'm going to do it with this game because I'm not a believer in the Jets at all. I think the 49ers bounce back. I think they get it going a little bit better. I'm going to lay the 7.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. The Jets don't look like a football team. They look similar to my Browns. And the 49ers coming off of that tough loss to the Cardinals, that I don't think they're going to be stopped in New York facing the Jets.
Yeah, I think that game might be a blowout. I really do. Los Angeles Rams as their next game up on the slate. They travel to Philadelphia to play the Eagles. The Rams are currently -1. We talked earlier in the cast how Philadelphia had a good first half of football and a horrific second half of football where they end up giving up the last 27. The Rams look pretty good. I watched that Sunday night game. They were flying around. I struggle with this again, but I think I'm going to lay the wood and lay the 1 point. It's a short line. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Rams -1.
I gotta think the Eagles are gonna figure it out. The Rams defense is phenomenal. Aaron Donald, I mean, that guy's a wrecking ball. They had some other key pieces that I thought stepped up. But I look for the Eagles to fix what they did wrong and come out on top on this one.
All right, next game up, Denver Broncos are going to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are -7. The over-under is 41.5. The Steelers played the first Monday night game last week. And you might not like to hear this, but I was thoroughly impressed by the Steelers. Their defense was just flying around.
Yeah, defense looked good. They're a good team.
They
Give them credit.
they completely shut down Barkley. Big Ben, looked a little rusty in the first quarter. He got it going, second quarter and throughout the rest of the game. But the fun is back in Pittsburgh. I mean, we got Juju Smith-Schuster doing touchdown TikTok dances. The fun's back there. The Steelers are -7. I feel like I'm picking a lot of teams to cover these numbers, but I'm going to give the 7. I'm going to give the 7 at home with the Steelers. I'm on the Steelers.
I'm on the Steelers too. Tough to beat them at home. They got one of the best left tackles in the game Villanueva, big fan of his. So I'm going
Military guy.
going with the Steelers.
All right, Carolina Panthers. They go play Tampa Bay. The Bucks are minus 8.5. The over/under is 48.5. We touched on the Bucks not exactly looking that great with all the new components and pieces and parts. I would suppose they get it back together this week. Carolina came off a loss as well. Good pick by you. You had the Raiders going in there and covering that number, and they did it. Although it was very close. This is a division, rival game as well. That's a big number. I'm going to go with the Panthers. I'm going to take the points with the Panthers in the 8.5.
I got to go with the Bucks. You got Bruce Arians, calling out his quarterback in this one. Brady's got to have a chip on his shoulder now, just to prove he's still got it. Again, Carolina, new coach, new quarterback over there. A lot of new stuff in Carolina. They got to travel this week, go down to Tampa Bay. I'm taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this one.
I'm going to stay with my stance. I got to see it before I believe it. I'm on the Panthers. I'm on the Panthers with the 8.5. Jacksonville Jaguars. They play obviously an in-division game as well. The Tennessee Titans coming off their Monday night win over Denver. They are minus 9, which is a big number in the National Football League. Over under 42.5. They still have their running game. I love Vrabel. I think Vrabel's a tremendous coach for the Titans. The Jags look good. The Jags, I don't think they're tanking for Trevor. It's too big of a number for me. I'm going to take the Jags.
I got to go with the Jags, too. That number's too big for me. I'm not comfortable with that. Tennessee's a good team, and I know last year they pounded the Browns. I know they can put up the points. But I don't know. Divisional game, I think Jacksonville's ready for them.
A lot of people pounded the Browns last year. I think the Titans will win the game. I don't think they cover the number. We're both on the Jags. That's the end of the 1 o'clock slate. The 4 o'clock Eastern games start next. The Washington football team travels out to the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals coming off a huge win out in San Francisco. They are minus 7. The over-under is 47.5. Washington put it together, at the end of that game, and I'm sure they have a little bit of confidence going. The Arizona Cardinals, Hopkins caught 14 balls or something like that, like an enormous amount of balls from Kyler Murray. I think there's so much big play potential on the Cardinal team. I'm gonna lay the points. I'm gonna lay the 7 with the Cardinals.
I'm going with the Cardinals as well. I think that Washington game, that big part of that win was emotion. Those turnovers obviously helped, but they got to travel to Arizona this week. So I'm taking the home team. I think they're going to win this one.
I like them too. Next game, Baltimore Ravens, very good football team. They go out to Houston. Ravens are minus 7. They're expecting a ton of points in this game. The over-under is 52. The Ravens flat out dismantled the Browns last week. The Texans had a difficult time. They ran into a little bit of a juggernaut on the opening game of the National Football League year or calendar when they played the Kansas City Chiefs. I was surprised, the Texans, how much they ran the ball as opposed to they threw the ball last week. They ran the ball pretty well with David Johnson. They're home. The Ravens are minus 7. I don't like laying that many points. I think it's going to be a good game. I'm going to take the points with the Texans.
I feel bad for the Texans because they're playing the 2 best teams in the AFC week 1 and 2.
That's a tough start.
I can't, whoever made that schedule, that's brutal because Lamar Jackson was on fire against the Browns. I mean, that kid can run, he can throw. His throws they're amazing. I mean, he's throwing darts. I'm going with the Ravens in this one, even though I can't stand them. I think they're going to dismantle the Texans. I'm not sold on the Texans.
We got another disagreement. I'm going to take the points. I'm hopeful that the Texans bounce back a little bit. Kansas City Chiefs, we just spoke about them a minute. They are an offensive juggernaut.
Yeah.
They go out to play the Chargers. The line is the Chiefs minus 9. The over-under is 48. Both teams are 1-0. The Chargers escaped Cincinnati with the...
Lucked out.
They did a little bit. At least the game should have went to overtime at a minimum with that chip shot field goal that was missed. I believe in the Chiefs and their firepower. I love their new running back out of LSU, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He was fantastic on Thursday night. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is tremendous. They have so much. I'm going to lay it. It's a huge number. I don't like laying that many points in the National Football League ever. I'm going to lay it with the Chiefs.
Doing that as well. The Chiefs are a complete football team all the way around. Their defense is playing well. Chargers, to me, they got quarterback issues.
Tyrod
And
Taylor.
other issues. I mean, but Tyrod's a great guy. He spent some time here in Cleveland. But that team, there's no way they can compete with the Chiefs. If they do, man, I'm staying with the Chiefs until
someone proves
until
otherwise.
They play the Ravens, I think.
Until someone proves otherwise. That's the end of the 4 o'clock games, the late day games. Sunday night football. The New England Patriots go all the way across the country, play the Seattle Seahawks. Both teams won. The Patriots were 21-11 winners against the Dolphins. The Seahawks, we talked about earlier, they went across country to Atlanta. They beat them pretty soundly. The Seahawks are -4 in this game. The over-under is 45. What do you think?
I'm going with the home team, Russell Wilson. I think the Seahawks. This could be their year. New England's got to come across the country. I know Cam had a great debut. First game going against Miami at Gillette Stadium. He looked good. Now he's got to travel across the country, go to Seattle. They've had some battles before. I think the Seahawks come out with a win on this one.
I hear you. I said in the first cast on Top of the Cage, you never know what to expect from Cam. One thing you can expect from Cam is
Sweet
an
outfits.
awesome game day outfit.
Yeah.
Did you see that? He looked
Yeah.
like an enormous banana.
Yep.
He was like yellow head to
Dress
toe.
is good, man.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He has no shame in that, and he's his own person. They ran the ball. I don't know how sustainable that is. Cam Newton had 15 rushes
Yeah.
in that game, which is a lot. I mean, he's a big dude, but you never like to get your quarterback banged up that much. I like Seattle too. I like Seattle. I'm going to give the 4 points in this game as well. We're on to Monday Night Football. The New Orleans Saints go out to play the Raiders. The Raiders open up their brand new stadium. Once again, nobody will be there, which is unfortunate. I'm looking forward to seeing that stadium. I heard it's unreal. The Saints are -6 in this game. The over-under is 50.5. Both teams coming off wins. The Saints beat the Bucks. The Raiders went into Carolina. They handled them. One thing to note in regards to this game, Michael Thomas hurt himself. He's going to be out, ankle sprain. They're looking at a few weeks, so they won't have their probably their best offensive weapon there. I know you're a believer in the Raiders. It's Monday night. I struggle with this. I'm going to take the Raiders. I'm going to take the points.
Yeah, this is a really tough game. 'Cause the Saints, to me, look like they're just having so much fun playing the game of football. I mean, it
Drew makes it look easy.
looks like backyard football when you got with your buddies, and they have a good time. Going to Vegas, the first game in the desert out there, the conditions. I think I'm going to go with the Raiders as well here.
Nice. It's a scary pick to take. Speaking of scary, what's going to happen to the black hole? I mean,
Yeah.
those guys all have to move from
Yeah.
Los Angeles to Las Vegas.
Get your shoulder
Those crazy
pads with the
people.
spikes.
I mean, I know don't have fans yet, but that black hole thing was real.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate.
A little
Hopefully,
bit better than the dog
I
pound.
bet some of them like relocated to Vegas. I don't know. They're crazy people, crazy fans. That's the entire slate for this week. As promised last week, we got a beer tasting you're not going to want to miss. It's a very unique one. It is coming up next. As promised, our very unique beer tasting is here. We're at the end of the second week of On Top the Cage. We are, new to the market. Anheuser-Busch came out with a product called Dog Brew. It's sold out. You can't find it. There's also a competing company called Bowser Beer. We have 3 different flavors lined up here. My friend Dan's going to pick one out here randomly. We're gonna talk about it for a minute. We're going to try it to see if it's dog worthy.
Let's see, we've got Porky Pup Porter, Cock-a-Doodle Brew.
And I have Beefy Brown Ale. You got a preference?
I'm going with the Beefy Brown Ale.
Beefy Brown
I'm
Ale.
hoping it tastes like steak.
Bowser Beer Company, free advertisement for you. I'm sure your product's amazing. Probably for dogs, not as much for humans. Let me see what we got in this thing. I don't think my eyes are good enough. I probably should have read this ahead of time. Anyway, let's go for this. Didn't really open like a beer.
No, it's,
Oh, looks like
looks like beef broth.
that looks like a craft ale to me. All right, we'll do some cheers. Don't start with that. Oh,
Smells like beef stew.
all right, let's go for this. You ready? All of it.
All of it?
All of it. All right. First of all, it tastes absolutely nothing like beer.
No.
Kind of meaty.
It's got a beef flavor to it and the smell of dog food. It's actually,
You want another shot? He's back in. He's back in.
I didn't think it was that bad.
I tell you what, maybe next week
Might try making soup out of it.
maybe next week the loser, or who didn't pick as well as the other person has to shotgun one of these things. I'm gonna pass on my second shot. My friend's a little bit crazy. You guys have been awesome. For my executive producer Ethan, for my co-host Dan, I'm Ken. This has been the second week of On Top the Cage. We're gonna do it again next week. We hope we pick some winners for you and give you some good advice. Thanks for watching. Thanks for viewing. We'll be back next week.
Good luck.
Good luck is right.